Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of Meeting with Mentors. Develop a passion for learning, and you will never cease to grow. This quote clearly, perfectly embodies the journey of my guest for today, Miss Sujatha Ramesh. Ms. Ramesh, with a BTech from the National University of Singapore, has an impressive background of over 20 years in the education consultancy. She is currently the vice president at Kitaboo and is also pursuing a PhD from IIM Indore, having completed 1 year of her research journey already. I've had the privilege of meeting Ms. Sujatha throughout her PhD admission process. I've had the privilege of mentoring Sujatha throughout her PhD admission process. And over the last 3 years, her dedication and passion for learning have been truly inspiring. Balancing senior leadership with academic pursuit is no small feat, but Sujata's ability to manage it all with the added responsibilities of home and family life is truly remarkable. So, how are you, Ms. Sujatha? Welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you, Dr. Ritika. And it's a pleasure being here. And first of all, I have to thank you because I wouldn't be on this program without you.
Oh, that's really nice of you, but I think it was all your hard work. Nevertheless, the reason why I've invited you to this podcast is that I hear so many people telling me that they are in senior leadership positions and they don't even have time for themselves. How would they do a PhD? But I know I have seen your journey since the last almost 2 years now, when you were preparing and then once you were in the program. You are
Mm.
managing everything so beautifully. I mean, you are in a leadership position, you have managing two teenage kids, your family, and of course a very rigorous PhD program, and I know you are excelling in each one of them. So what's the secret of yours? Can you please share it with our students? Also, I have this question. Many people ask me, like, ek din mein, how much time do we have to dedicate to a PhD program? You know, how much studies do we have to do in a week's time, in a day's time? So, can you also tell us about that? So, time management, what's your secret?
Okay. So I think first I will have to bust some myths that anybody can do everything very well. I think you end up having to let go some things, and I think you have to let them go consciously, right? So, for example, for the period that I was preparing for the PhD journey, there were things, for example, at home, and I'll be candid here. If laundry is not folded for 2 days, it's not folded for 2 days because I'm busy preparing for something. Okay. And then I do it at some other time. So some things do tend to be let gone of or postponed or whatever. At that point, both my children, you're right, were preparing for board exams, 10th and 12th and things like that. And it was complicated, right? But yes, you have to prepare what you have to prepare. You have to focus on what's important. And I think you have to really cherry pick your priorities. And I think everybody knows this already. But I think the other question is more, it helps to dwell on the other question a little bit more. Like, how does one, after getting into a PhD journey as an executive DPM student, how do you manage? And I think there is no one answer, but there are some patterns that I've noticed in my cohort especially. And my cohort has 35 people who are all 25, sorry, people who are all very accomplished in their areas. Okay. Some are new mothers. People got pregnant during the program. People had a second child during the program. So there is a lot of movement, and then people have changed jobs. They've gotten higher positions. They've moved countries and things like that, but they managed. Okay. And so it's not just me. It is a story of pretty much everybody. Okay. I guess for women, it's a little bit more, but I would say it kind of evens out eventually, right? But the story, I think, is not specific to a gender. There are three patterns that I've seen. Okay. Typically of how people manage time. There are people who start early and try to finish things very early.
Okay.
Now, there are risks associated with that approach because sometimes you don't get the instructions till the end, and then there is a revision of instructions somewhere later, and then you have to redo work, which is not great. But most of the time, that approach helps, especially if you're juggling a lot of things, because you never know what comes up at the last minute. Like in my kind of a job, things come up quite suddenly. And like you said, there are teenagers and there are older people that I'm taking care of and health issues and things like that. So you never know what comes up. And the last thing you want is to have an institute deadline coinciding with a work deadline and there is something happening at home.
Okay.
So I find it a lot more calming to start very early and try to just get rid of stuff or just finish it.
So basically, you're very proactive. You start doing things right on time so that you can finish before time.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's just trying to manage the risk. And I'll also bring up another point a little later, but let me just complete the 3 patterns. Okay. The second pattern, and this is the most prevalent pattern, people start about a week before an assignment is due. Okay, about maybe 4-5 days to a week before an assignment is due. And an assignment in a doctoral program is not about studying some chapter and answering some questions. It is reading papers. There's a lot of background work that you end up having to do. And you end up having to integrate a lot of information. It takes a little more time than you'd normally anticipate for it. You know this.
Yes.
Right? So 1 week is about what typically anything takes, about say 5 days. So people start about 4-5 days earlier or a week earlier, and then they use 1 weekend day, for example, for reading, and then little they complete. This is the most common pattern. The third pattern is your last minuters. People who pick it up 2 days before, but that also works, I'll tell you, because what they do is they take 2 days off or 1 day off from work, and then they cram all their assignments in those 2 days. That also works. Right? So their way is take 2 days off and then simply focus on the institute and university work and completely take everything else out. My method is more of keep everything going at the same time, manage multiple rails. That's also okay.
The last one is so a bit risky according to me, because if something comes up at last moment in your office or anything in your family, you will be quite stuck with these assignments.
Yes, the institute is kind of understanding if it is a very, very genuine issue. But also I want to warn people that the institute also knows when it's not quite true.
But it cannot happen every time, right? Maybe once or twice.
And the institute does pull up people. I know people whose grades have dropped a bit because they had to pay a penalty for submitting late and things like that. And some submissions have actually been rejected and things like that. So that happens as well. So it's not worth taking the risk, but people know what they're doing. These are adults, so they know what they're doing. That is the...
You follow the first pattern, right? You follow the first pattern. Yes.
Mostly. But that brings me to the other point I wanted to make, Dr. Ritika. It is that the 4 modules, IIM Indore coursework contains 4, it's spread out over 4 modules. Okay, it's I think about 1 quarter per module, something like that. Okay, 3 months. Now, in that time, what happens is that in the first module, you have 9 subjects.
Okay.
Okay, it's the entire MBA program.
Oh God.
It's a crash course MBA in 3 months. Okay.
9 subjects in 3 months.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay.
It is a handful. Okay. The second term also tends to be very busy. There's a lot, and each subject is different. So there is a lot of variety also. So it's not like what you do in one carries over to the other. They're all different subjects. Like, for example, you could have law, finance, human resource.
You are studying all the management subjects, and these are complete subjects, not a part of a subject or a unit.
More or less, yes. So, for example, economics, you'll have both micro and macro in one module. Okay, so it does, yes. So just like a crash course MBA, and if you've done an MBA before, which is what most people have, then it's relatively okay, but still I don't think anybody found module 1 a walk in the park. Nobody did. So the first 2 modules tend to be busy in terms of the sheer variety and the number of subjects you have to submit.
First 6 months are very rigorous.
They're busy in one way, and the next 2 are busy in another way. So the first two is just the sheer number of submissions, because each module has about 3 submissions on average. And by that, I mean full term paper, and then another, some kind of a review, and then PPTs and assignments. Okay. So it is every week you're looking at submitting something or the other, more than one.
Okay.
So that last minute thing is now, well, you're always go.
And you are having exams in all these 9 subjects in the first term, and then again.
It could be an exam, it could be a term paper review. It depends. And sometimes you have both.
Okay.
Sometimes you have both, an exam and a term paper submission. Sometimes you have a midterm and an exam and a term paper submission. So it can get busy, though those are less, I don't want to scare people. Those are less common, but the workload is heavy. And I want to tell people, if you're walking into an IIM Indore doctoral program, especially as an EDPM candidate, you want to talk to your family before you start this.
Oh, yes. This is something which I tell all my full-time and part-time aspirants. Family support is very important during this time.
Yes. And during coursework, especially in the first 2 modules, you're probably not going to be going out any weekend.
But I think
so
it's
6 months
worth it. It's truly.
Yeah. Absolutely. You just have to inform people, and you have to be mentally prepared.
You have to be mentally prepared.
Yeah. So that's like that. Then the next 2 modules, the number of subjects is very less. But the thing is, the submissions tend to be heavy and very detailed. And I personally, I thought module 1 was a race. It was very hectic, but I wouldn't say it was hard. And I don't even have an MBA. Okay. So there were new subjects. Even then, it was not that bad. I found module 3 and 4 very challenging. Very challenging.
Don't have subjects, then what are you studying in it?
No, you have subjects. You have 4 subjects or 6 subjects, whatever that is, right? But the thing is, they are 20 sessions long. Okay. So 20 days you have classes, and also remember, your weekends are kind of taken up. In the first term, your weekends are pretty much full, like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Your back-to-back classes. But later on, that becomes lesser. Okay, you don't have classes every day or every weekend day, not all the hours, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. That's okay. The thing is, those classes, the depth of the subject is a lot.
Okay.
So the term papers, the quality that you're expected to produce also changes. So for example,
third and the fourth term, is it related more to your research area? Are the subjects related more to your research area?
Okay. Yes. And also it is more advanced subjects, and also the submissions, for example, in the first term, first module are like 1,500 words, 2,000 words. By the time you get to third and fourth modules, you're writing 8,000 words, 5,000 words, 8,000 words. That is why it becomes heavy.
Okay. So these subjects in your third and fourth term are related to your research area, I assume?
Not all. So there are core subjects that all of us have to do in module 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. But in the first 2 modules, it is primarily common subjects. In the third and fourth, it is primarily subject-specific, area-specific subjects.
So it becomes much more interesting for a researcher. That's why you...
No, you know what? I actually felt that there is value to doing all the subjects. There's a perspective. See, at the end of the day, I think the director made it quite clear to us. The reason you're doing so many subjects, at all the management subjects, is because you're getting a management PhD.
Right.
And you can't walk out into the world, call yourself
it's 4:30.
Doctorate in management, and not know the basics of management.
That's a very valid point, because there are so many students who ask me that why do we have to study all the management subjects, in a PhD? But that is absolutely right. How can you be a doctorate in management and not know management subjects?
Yeah. But if you went to a technical university and you did a technical doctorate, that won't be required. And they will have fewer subjects, or they'll have more subject-specific subjects. But that's choice. You're choosing to come into a management institute.
Yes, right.
So you're signing up for this.
So probably an IIT management, PhD in management would have lesser management subjects in their coursework.
IIT technical PhD will have fewer subjects in the coursework, but probably That I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So back to the time
Yes.
management thing. How many days in a month did you go for your first term?
On site, you mean? I mean, to
Yes. To
campus?
the campus.
Campus is about 8 days every time. Okay. So you
Every
go
term.
in on, yes,
So
all
you
four
went four
times.
times. You've gone four times to the campus.
I actually went all four times and I stayed the full time every time. But that's like in the last two terms, for example, right? The modules, as we call them,
Hmm.
you may not have classes on all days. Okay.
Okay.
So for some people, they had classes only starting on the third day, for example.
Okay.
Some of them would still come on day one, some would come only on day three. That really depends on
So if
what
you
you want to
went
do.
on
Because
day one and you didn't have classes, then what would you do? You would.
yeah, so you can actually use, there are things that you can do in the library, for example, which you can only do from the library in the campus. Okay. It's ring fenced to a campus IP addresses. So you can't log into those from home. So if you want that kind of data or those softwares and things like that,
Great.
it's very good. That's one thing. The second thing is, I think it's very important to connect to people. Now, whether that is your cohort people or other, say, FPM students or other batches. I mean, we didn't get to meet people from other batches, but FPM students and also the faculty members.
Faculty members. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think it takes time to build those bonds. So it's like you don't know anybody in module one. You're like largely we're just having fun, having Maggie and chai at
Hmm.
12 o'clock and trying to
Reliving your
pretend to be.
college days again.
I know. So you kind of get over that in module one. And then by module two, you're like, you know what? We're here for business.
Okay. And the
But we
campus of
also
IIM
bond.
Indore is as it is very beautiful.
It's a resort. It's a
Yes.
resort. It almost feels like it kind of escaping life and going into this
Right.
very verdant, serene place, and you really feel like studying it. And it's so healthy. The campus feel is very,
Yes, it's very green.
yeah. You walk a lot. It's very green. There is even like this meditation garden, spiritual garden. Very nice. Love that.
And in case when you went for 8 days, did you have internet access? Obviously you had internet access. I mean, could you access your office work or you were completely on leave? How did you
So it
manage?
is like it is working from a resort. It is what do you
Yeah.
like? So yes, I mean Wi-Fi, etc. See, in the first 3 days, you scope out the campus and you know exactly where the best Wi-Fi is and where you're expected to be quiet. There are parts of the campus where you are expected to be silent or keep it down, and then there are other places. So I have managed escalations. I've managed some very serious decisions that we had, strategy decisions or change of direction. All that happened somehow at that time, but it's very manageable because classes finish by 5:30 anyway. And then after that, in the evening, you do have time. And all of us have caught up with work. And I don't think anybody had to.
So
Even
it's
like, I think,
manageable.
yeah,
That's
even the IAS officers manage. I think we are all like smaller fry. We can manage.
yes, you had told me about a very senior IS officer who is in your cohort.
Yes. And it's like, he gets a call from the chief minister or somebody at that level and he goes out of class. He handles it and he comes right back and joins and he's just another student.
So if
Then so.
he can manage, then
It's very humbling. Dr. Ritika, it's extremely humbling. Like all your excuses disappear when you see people. You're like, oh my God, I'm a woman. I'm so burdened. And then you see this, very young lady who has her first kid. And then you see another one with a second kid born just then. And they're all managing. Somebody actually has taken classes after giving birth from the hospital bed.
oh my God, that's
I
the
am not kidding you.
wow, that's the
I know.
kind of dedication. So
I know.
anybody who says they don't have time to manage a PhD along with their work, no excuses. You can manage.
Nobody, and by the way, even faculty members tell you, there was this sociology faculty member whom I was telling, ma'am, this is a lot of work. Ma'am, do I really have to get this many interviews? And she's like, you're not the first one doing, an ethnography course. So
Hmm.
please,
Hmm.
people, and she actually told me, people have been in far busier situations than you and have done 10x the number of interviews. I'm not asking you to do 10x. I'm asking you to do 3x. So be happy. I'm actually being kind. You're like,
So where
okay,
there is a
that's,
will, there is a way. You'll find a way.
yeah, I don't think you're given much of choice. So, I mean, you have to maintain your GPA also. So
Hmm,
you can't really go below a certain levels.
hmm. So again, how much time in a week do you think you dedicate to this program?
I pretty much worked every day for a while at least. On
Maybe
most
just
days, I
six
spent
months,
some time.
and then also after that also. Now also, do you work every day?
Coursework is over now. Now
Hmm.
we're enjoying.
No,
But
it's only for
all of us are on,
the
it feels
one
like
year.
after board exam for 2 weeks, you're doing absolutely nothing. So we are in that period right now in our cohort, but our comprehensives have yet to come. So we're in that period between the two.
Comprehensive viva.
Um, but uh, but I think the thing is, module 3, for example, comes at the time of year ending, corporate year ending, where
Hmm.
everybody is making new budgets, sales targets, and all of that, and you have a lot of planning to do. That is challenging, for example. And then, there are some days when you can't really focus on coursework much. And then
Hmm.
you go and catch up like crazy on some days, and then everybody is awake at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, hammering away because there is group work also to be done.
Hmm. Right. But then
Keep in
this
mind, this group work also.
okay,
Yeah.
this must have been such a great learning experience, but all these things, managing, and at the end, managing everything. I know you've got very good marks. I don't want to discuss here, but I know you have.
Marks are not important in a PhD
But you
program. There are.
passed with flying colors.
I mean, I passed all right, but there are others also who did well. So, in every batch, there are people who take studying a bit seriously, I guess. But it's the point I don't think is about marks at all. I think everybody, especially in my cohort, I can say this for sure. People all gave some pretty good inputs and they created some good output. So, it doesn't matter what the final grade, I mean, it's not at this stage, right? We're not in grade school.
Definitely not.
But having said that, the journey, the learning journey for me and a few of us, like I can speak for, was thoroughly enjoyable.
Hmm.
It's thoroughly enjoyable. And this whole thing of, "Arey, now we're all old. Now, we can't study." Nobody says that.
Hmm.
Nobody who comes into this program says that. Sometimes we kind of try to get a few favors from teachers, I mean, from instructors, saying, "How much will you make us work? Oh, we poor things." And then they give us this look, and then we know better than to bargain after that. So,
As it is, PhD is not about studies. It is about, I mean, it adds to your personality in so many other ways when you analyze things, when you discuss, when you interact with so many people. It adds so much more to your personality than just the knowledge. That aspect is always there, but the other aspects of your personality also get enhanced.
oh
Your
yeah, that. And also, I would say this: IIM Indore, the PhD is definitely multidisciplinary. Okay,
thinking.
especially if you want to make it that way. And in my case, it certainly is. And a lot of people, it's like that: marketing plus strategy, finance plus
Hmm.
something else. There are people who are doing sociology plus,
Hmm.
psychology plus strategy or
Hmm.
public policy. So people come up with very interesting combinations.
Combinations.
And when you're doing that, what you're doing is that you're integrating ideas
Hmm.
and uh, you have to build competence in multiple areas. So you're
Yes.
reading papers, for example, from two different
Two
fields,
different fields. And I think
two or
that's
three
what
different.
is demanded in today's time, actually. Multidisciplinary subjects or interdisciplinary subjects is something which institutes prefer.
Yes, yes. And I don't know how other institutes work, but I can tell you Indore is very enabling of that. Like even when we have asked for specific courses, can we get that? They try very hard to find somebody who can teach that at a doctoral level. And there are some restrictions. Only certain people can teach a doctoral program and they go and hunt someone up who can do that.
Wow.
So, yeah. So it's been a very nice experience like that.
Complete support of the faculties. You have complete support of the faculties.
Oh, yes, yes. And even after that, if you go back to them and say, I'm not sure about this, or I'd like to discuss this, they try to make time. They're
Okay.
very busy, but it's very sweet and very humbling for us that they do try to make time.
That's such a wonderful thing to hear. In spite of being, I know they all the faculties are so busy, but in spite of that, they give you that mind. So do you get in touch with
It's a
them?
complete myth. Huh?
So how do you get in touch with them when you are like off the campus through emails?
Oh, that's all very easy. That's what I said. No, it's a myth that professors have this chill life. At 10, they come back at 2, nothing of the sort. They're all busy working on like on Saturdays and Sundays, and management development programs happen in the evening because it's after working hours. So very busy. But having said that, they're all accessible even through our university chat. They have a Google chat. They are accessible through email. Some of them even share their personal phone numbers. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Some of them even, like, you have to be, of course, respectful of their time, and you can't keep.
And they won't do it at the very first meeting. You also have to win their trust and show them that you're a hardworking scholar.
I don't know about that, but I mean, in general, when I've asked questions and I've asked some ridiculously stupid questions, there were subjects I didn't know, and I'm shameless, so I went and asked. They were very nice, even with very basic questions. They're not patronizing or condescending. They're very enabling of learning. And I can say this very honestly because I've actually taken that kind of help, sir. I don't understand this. So they are
proud PhD student of IIM Indore.
It's a place that makes you want to respect the place. The faculty members have a certain level of integrity. They have a certain level of commitment. They expect a certain integrity from you, and I respect all of this. They expect a certain level of rigor. You don't get your A pluses for free. In fact, once when I got a grade that I was kind of a little disappointed by, I went back to the faculty member and said, what did it take to, what would have been additionally required? And, I had a streak of A's and what have you. Here, look at what you did. This person said, well, you try to make it up in the next, and this just wasn't good enough. You have to earn your A's. So, that speaks to the rigor, actually. And people think that in an EDPM program, there is no rigor. I wouldn't agree with
that. It is very rigorous. It is time consuming. It requires your time and your dedication.
They're reasonable in that they're dealing with executives, but that doesn't mean that, it's all, it's a cakewalk. It's not rocket science, but it's not a cakewalk either.
Yes. So. Understood. Unless and until you're not serious about a PhD, we would not suggest.
Don't come to IIM Indore. Yeah. No, Indore is not the place. Indore is not.
But if you're serious about a PhD, then this is the best place to learn, and you'll get a lot of support.
Yes.
And enabling in the campus.
Yeah. And you get good faculty members. You have a great library. They have access to some amazing journals and publications. And if it is not there, the library chair is more than ready to help you get access to more, papers and stuff. And the quality of the cohort. People who come here are a certain baseline quality. And I have come to value that very much, Dr. Ritika. You think PhDs are people say it's a lonely journey. I don't know that that's the case. You need people, like after this period, after the exams were over and before the comprehensive, there's about 2 months. And one of my classmates, he called me up and said, we've not done anything. I have to get back. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I've also been just lazing. And we both talked to each other, and then a third friend joined. And then, we decided to pick up the literature review, etc. And so we motivate each other to stay on track. So it's important.
So if you're a willing student and if PhD is your passion, then this could be the best place to do your PhD from.
And the others are also serious. The other people who are doing their PhDs, there are people who have already finished their 2 conferences. There are people who have gone to so there are people who are who are reviewing papers somewhere. And so, people keep busy with this, and they keep that slight edge, and there's a little bit of academic tension, which is very good.
Yes, little bit of stress is always good.
Oh yeah.
So
if we don't feel it, the faculty members make sure you feel it. Don't worry, it'll happen, and you'll realize, oh, you know what? I'm in an IIM.
Yeah.
Pass that exam, it happens.
But then only you will value your degree. So I think it's
every grade that you get, you value. Nothing comes for free here. No.
So any last minute words, suggestion? to the PhD aspirants or scholars watching this podcast?
I just say that I think people should do PhD for the right reason, right?
Absolutely right.
It's not an easy path, and often the pay etc. difference is not really concomitant to the effort you put in and the number of years you put into it, and the publication expectations at an IIM, especially like an IIM Indore, is pretty steep. Okay, they expect some pretty good quality publication from you, and that's not easy. So I think people should come into it knowing there's a fair bit of work, there's a fair bit of learning, there's a fair bit of rigor. You can't kind of jugadofy your way into a PhD. So I think people should get in knowing that. And there's a lot of family sacrifice that you have to do, events that you miss. All of that happens. So I think I think the learning journey itself needs to be enjoyable for it to be worth all the other sacrifices you're going to make.
Yes.
That's the only thing. I'll ask people to please think. I'm not discouraging, but I'm saying get into it for the right reason.
It's the truth. I mean, that's what I try to
You do a great job of it.
That's the purpose of this YouTube channel, removing all the myths. I've done my bit of sacrifices for my PhD, but I'll do it all over again to do this degree.
And I will tell people one more thing. Ritika did not ask me to say this, and she doesn't know that I'm going to say this, but I think Ritika is a phenomenal mentor because she keeps you honest. And she's going to tell you where you fit and where you don't fit. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't, but I think she keeps you very honest and she's very authentic. So I think whoever follows what she says, I think will get to where is right for them to be.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for these words. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for.
Thank you for calling me, all the people.
I'll call you again after a few years to ask you how was your third and fourth year now.
No, by then, hopefully, I can talk about publications and things like that.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. So thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you like always.
Likewise.
Best of luck for your journey. And I'm sure people listening to this podcast are going to learn so much from it.
I hope so. And you keep mentoring some great PhD candidates as well. All the best to you.
Hopefully this year also I'll be able to add a few more in IIM Indore. Let's see.
Few more. Many more. Here's to many more.
Okay. Bye-bye. Have a nice weekday.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.